All right, well, let's get going. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Dimitri Lylin. I'm a product manager for Visual Studio Team Services. I've been in the team for a long time. If you guys have ever watched in the last 3-4 years, like Connect Online, .NET Conf, if you've come to Build, if you've come to TechEd before that, I've worked all those events behind the scenes working on them for you guys. I do a bunch of Channel 9, and I love the developer space. I've been a developer for a very long time. Well, that's enough about me. Ed, why don't you introduce yourself too?
Hi, my name is Edward Thompson. I'm a program manager for Visual Studio Team Services. I focus on DevOps, and in particular, I focus on Git and version control. I used to be an engineer on the team. Now they took away my ability to merge pull requests, so I'm merely a program manager.
It's okay. People like your title still more than mine. When they hear PMM, because that's the acronym for Product Marketing Manager at Microsoft that I carry, the question usually is, what is that? And that's from people that work in buildings next to me, just to give you an idea. They hear PM, like, yeah, we know what you do. That's cool. Well, as a PMM for Visual Studio Team Services, my job is to make sure you guys know all about it and get to appreciate all of its capabilities. And that's what we're going to try to do today for Git. But we're going to really do Git more of a service than just talk about the Visual Studio Team Services part. We're going to talk about the command line tooling. We're going to talk about a bunch of stuff, right? You're not going to leave here being educated on Git as a training session, right? This isn't like, hey, come here to learn Git. No, it's more like, hey, you're interested in Git, you probably know something about it, and we're going to show you a bunch of tools that are going to make your life better, and then you're going to spend some time learning it, and you're going to be awesome, right? So we're here to open your eyes to whatever we can. If you're a Git Power user, I'm not sure why you're in this session, but you're welcome to stay. I just want everyone to have the right expectations because there's still other content going on besides this. Big thank you to Ed for coming on with me. He wasn't supposed to be here, but I needed some help. We had some stuff that he could cover, so awesome, dude. Thank you. Let's jump right in. So that's our agenda for today. I'm not going to read it. You guys can see it. I tried to build an agenda that's really going to cover, from different perspectives, right? There's lots of ways that you could need source control, and there's lots of tools that we have available from the community, from Microsoft, places we've collaborate with the community to enable that. We have some great partners. We'll try to cover as much as we can. It's a complex session. I'm expecting something to go wrong, but let's see what happens. All right, so Git fundamentals. The first thing that I'll say is, when I started to learn about Git, and that was just a couple of years ago, I actually completely missed this fact till very recently. I did not realize that Linus, the guy who made the Linux kernel, is the same guy who put Git into existence. So that was pretty awesome. So kudos to him for the work he did here. I think this is my speculation. I think one of the primary reasons he built it is because he could. He's an awesome engineer, and he wanted to make something that was open source and to support the open source community. That's my guess. There's other things that's unique about Git. Certainly is a distributed version control system. It certainly does scale pretty well, and just, the session right before, if you would have seen it, we're trying to make it scale even more to higher scales than that. But it's an awesome source control approach, and it has some advantages. I will give it that. I come from visual source safe days. That's when I started my career. I did the TFS thing with TFVC. So as a professional thing for me, like a job where I code and I'm a developer, I miss Git. So I started using Git when I was doing my own projects, and I still code almost every week. I just love code too much as my work needs me in Excel and Outlook most of the time. But yeah, awesome to have this from the community. Linus does not maintain Git today. I want to make sure we give credit to the great work of a person whose name I will butcher, so I won't even bother. But Gitster, that's easy. That's his nickname on GitHub. Yeah, he works for Google, I believe, and he maintains Git. He maintains the tooling. Obviously, the community contributes, right? This is an open source project, but he needs to be given credit. Him and the panda, that's an awesome picture there. All right, so why did we need a new version control system? That's a good question, and there used to be a time where the next slide you would see would be comparing for the crowd like you guys, people who are obviously exposed to Microsoft technologies, we'd first compare it. We'd say, well, TFVC does this, and Git does that. I'm going to move slightly away from that. I think you're here because you obviously want to know about Git, right? You probably know TFVC, or maybe it's not even relevant because you want to learn Git, or you need to learn Git for your organization. So these are the big reasons why I think Git is really a strong technology combination with all sorts of software and community engagement. It's fully offline. This notion, and it took me a while to fully appreciate it, that the repo really is on disk on my machine, that copy of the repo. And I can do everything I could back in the day against TFS, right? So I can go check in, I can branch it, I can merge it, I can do different changes, I can look at my commit history, I can do all of that without ever syncing it up to a server, just by installing the tools and starting to work with it. In fact, I don't need to have Visual Studio. It's better, like, let's say I'm using Visual Studio, right? It's better if it's integrated, but through the command line tools that's provided from the open source project, you can do everything. So once you install that, you're good to go. It's also free. There's lots of projects that support it, lots of people that know it. It's very portable and very cross-platform. So hey, awesome technology. All right, so we're going to move into a demo. We're going to show you guys how to get started here. So let me switch over. 1 second. All right, but first I've got to do this. I'm on a virtual machine right now. So here, I'll prove that to you. There's my little bar with an IP address. Please don't bomb it. So in the previous session, we were talking about how we have a very slow Wi-Fi network here. This virtual machine is in Azure, and it's one of those really expensive virtual machines. And I mean, like, I'm going to have to remember to turn it off even on my marketing account. So I'm going to do a speed test and see how that goes. Yeah, it's pretty badass. Earlier, it reached about 500 something. I think it actually slowed down a little bit since then. So just to give you an idea, I'm going to do some things which might take you a little bit longer on the Wi-Fi network here. So just wanted to point that out. All right, let's jump in here. So the first thing that I want to do is say that I'm still kind of working on it, but there's basically in GitHub going to be a page which I have a link to in the slides. So that page is going to have all the resources you can imagine from this presentation. So you don't have to worry about taking lots of notes here. It'll have access to the deck as well. Like there's already a download link for the deck. Our contact information on Twitter is up here. So all of these resources will be available to you, but give me till tomorrow for you to actually get some good use out of it. But I'm going to use this to just get me started here, because I have a link. This makes it easy. I'm going to take you through the journey the way that I learned it, because I often feel like people get on stage and then they show you stuff and you're like, what tool was that? What version? Where did they get it? Lots of open questions, and I feel like you're in a talk that should try to help you understand some of that. So I'm going to go straight to GitHub on where Git lives. This is the repo where there's a copy of the source code, and this is the latest version of the source code, and lots of history and everything else up here. This is what Gitster maintains. And I'm going to use the scroll here. I'm going to answer the question through the bottom of the page that I had, which was, let me zoom in here a little bit. Who do I trust? Like when you talk about open source projects, I don't know if you're like me, guys, but I'm a little bit paranoid. When I just Google for something, I'm like, is that the real tool or some other project or some fork or some scam or some virus? I don't know. If it's completely new to me, like this was at some point, I had to go to a source to trust the next click through. To get the command line tools that we're gonna show you right now, if you forget like where we showed you to get it, just go to the Git repo, the official one, git/git on GitHub. And Git's the organization, and Git's the repo. So 2 Gits. And then there's a link in here for the tools. So I'm going to click on that. And I'm going to go to the tools site. And this is as official as it gets. A lot of open source projects, there's no like organization per se behind them, like a corporation like we're used to in a lot of ways. But this is the official place, and it's actually a very nice site. They have documentation, they have downloads. They have downloads for all the operating systems, and they already can see that I'm on Windows and are already offering me the best download that I need right here. So clicking that button will start the download. I already have these tools installed, but there you go. That's how you can kind of follow along and make sure you know what to install. So let's take a look at what I actually installed to get started with Git. So this is what my machine has. I've pinned some things here. Sorry, let me move that back. It's a bit chaotic in the VM. All right, so there's going to be a bunch of tools we're going to tell you about. So these are the tools that come with the command line installation, the official one, right, from the community, from the open source project. The reason why we're showing it to you is because this is a great way to learn Git. Yes, tools will make it easier, but you should learn to do it the command line way. I've heard people say that to me, and I didn't believe them. And then I never really learned Git until I used the command line. Then I got much better. I still don't think I've learned Git as much as I should. Probably will take me a couple more years to become like an expert dude at it. But this is a really good thing to know. Now, the 3 tools, the first one is the command prompt version. That's going to start the command prompt, and Git's just on the path, so you can start running Git. Then there's a bash, which is a simulated, how would you describe it, Ed?
So yeah, so Git bash, what it really does is it brings down a full Unix-like environment called msys2. The reason it does that is because Git itself was built on Linux, for Linux, and so when it was built, it's a kind of a, well, messy hodgepodge, to be completely honest with you, of C and Perl and shell scripts. And it's the shell scripts that are really problematic here because really, when you're building shell scripts on Unix, you call things like the Unix commands, like awk and sed and cat and whatever else. And so you need this Unix-like environment. So Git bash is that. It will start up the bash shell, and all of the Unix tools that Git itself needs will be in your path for you, too. And some people like working that way. I don't. I love Unix. I love Unix. I'm an old Unix guy. I've got like an old Sun and an old Next at home, just sitting around in case I ever need to run software from the mid-90s. But I still don't like Git bash. It feels weird. It's weird to have a Unix-like environment on Windows. That's just my opinion. A lot of people love it. So you've got the choice. If you're familiar with the Windows command line, Git command is great. If you really are more familiar with the Unix command line tools and want to use that, Git bash is there for you too.
Thank you. See, this is why I brought him up here. He's awesome like that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Any of those questions I have, I'm just going to throw it at him. If I forget something, he's going to just have the answers. How long have you been working with Git now?
I don't know.
A long time? It seems
yeah, I
like.
don't know. A handful of 6 or 7 years.
A handful of 6 or 7 years. So sure beats my year of experience there. So there you have it. So there's also a GUI tool that you get. So they're called, I keep calling them the command line tools because that's, to me, the biggest value they add to you. And certainly, this came from the Unix world, so it's all about the command line. But there is a GUI in there as well. So the Git GUI, you'll get an icon for it once you install the tools. What is your take on it? I'm not super impressed by what I get there. It's like, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
We'll show it to you real quick. Probably.
It exists.
Yeah, it exists. There's another one. There's a Git K that you can run from the command line if you want. So there's a bunch of tools that come with it. The command prompt or the bash is where you're going to spend the time. That's my take on that. All right, let's jump into the command line and take a look. I'm going to run git cmd. And there's nothing super magical about it. Let me do this. Let me increase my fonts. Can I do that here? Let's go to properties. Sorry, forgot that this thing is going to be tiny. I want you guys to see if I can make it happen. So if anybody really can't see, I could try to make it bigger, but it's going to be tough. All right, so if I type git, I get a bunch of commands listed to me. Because I have those tools installed, because it's in the path, if I just type git, if you forget anything else that I tell you today, and you're like, oh man, I got to do something with a git repo, this will give you all the basic commands. And there's some really good resources out there to learn all of these commands. Again, we're not here today to teach you everything about Git. There's actually some great Pluralsight courses, community courses, books, lots of great places to learn. I actually really enjoyed the Pluralsight course that I recently discovered. But let me show you one handy thing. So there's 2 guides that are out there for all the commands, and I'm going to just open them up. And again, you'll have all the links, and this is from the official site. So this is GitHub's little cheat sheet. I really like it. I think it does a really good job in just illustrating in a couple of pages, like the 2 pages, that every basic command and what they do. So definitely consider that as something you download and keep around. That's great to have offline. I was on an Amtrak train recently, and the internet there was, well, non-existent half the ride. I was really happy I took some PDFs with me, let's just say that. And then there's this interactive one, which is also pretty cool. So you click on sort of these are not stages, like what would you call these?
I don't know, I've never seen this before.
The index, so you can't even see, my apologies. The different stages of it, right? It shows you the
cool.
commands for it.
So the idea here is, as you're working, if you want to work in your local repository, there's the cheat sheet there.
Boom.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Did I teach you something new? Did I show you something you
Yes.
don't know? That's amazing. So there you go. As you sort of click on each of the swim lanes, there's a static version too. They publish both versions of it. So this is really cool. Take a look at it. And again, the documentation I find in Google will give you the answer really, really quickly. And the tools like Visual Studio will make this a lot easier. But still, we should learn both of these. All right. So let's get back here, and let's do something very, very basic. I'm going to go and make a directory called Dimitri. I'm going to go into Dimitri, and I'm going to say git init. So this initializes an empty repository. So let's take a look at this thing. I have the option on to see hidden files. So I'm going to go in, and I'm going to click on the folder called Dimitri, and there's going to be a .git file in there. And I'm going to open up one more layer, and then I'm going to zoom in so folks can see a little bit easier. So in a millisecond there, it created a bunch of files which will, from this point forward, thanks to the tools we have installed, start giving you the opportunity to maintain history and do all the magic of distributed source control. These files all have meanings. They control what is the active branch. They control what are the diffs between all the branches of the files. They have all sorts of hierarchical information about the tree that you're building as you're working and stuff. And the commands you run within this folder, now that the folder is sort of there and hidden, and by this folder I mean the folder one level down, right? So you normally shouldn't touch this folder. You have to really know what you're doing to touch this folder. It's hidden for a reason, right? Like many times. But if you're in here, you can do stuff now. If I didn't type git init, and then I would try to do a git command somewhere, I would say this isn't a repo. Unless you cloned it from somewhere else, it would be like, I don't know what this is. It's just a folder. So now that I did that, anything else you want to add about that special magical?
Don't
touch it.
Don't touch that.
There you go. Don't touch it sounds like a good one. So let's talk about like what can you do here now. So I'm going to type git status, and it's going to tell me that basically nothing's been happening here. This is a completely empty folder in the sense that it's a repository, but there's no changes that it's tracking yet in here. And I'm going to go in, and I'm just going to start making some changes. So I'm going to go ahead and create a folder called new folder. I'm going to create a new file. This is where I might soon say, I need a friend. Forget the command. All right. So once again, we're going to do git status, and it's going to recognize that, at the very least, that you have added a document. Now, why doesn't it tell me that I added the folder? Why isn't the folder listed here?
If it's an empty folder, Git ignores it.
That explains a lot, you know? I've been wondering about that for literally like 6 months, I think. So, my gosh, I'm going to learn something.
There's actually a strange limitation in the way Git stores its metadata that doesn't allow it to track empty folders.
Fascinating. I'm going to have to look into that some more. Let's put another file in there. Let's call it something else just to make it interesting. So, man, I'm going to learn how to be even better at this. So it is smart.txt will be the file.
I love it.
There you go. It's all right. You deserve the credit in this one. I'm sure I know things you don't. And git status again. And look at that. It recognizes that there's a folder. And it doesn't recognize there's a file in it, or it doesn't display that.
It's just not displaying that for you.
Yeah,
just to simplify things.
Because this has worked for me. Like, you know what it is. You work with something, and you just take things for granted. That's me too. And then you get on stage, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna ask Ed. That's a good idea. So now there's multiple stages in the life cycle of these files, right? It's not just it's in here and then you commit it. So maybe you can give people the 2 seconds. I'll open up that interactive tree. Actually, this would help a little bit. Yeah,
for sure. Git differs from Team Foundation version control and Subversion in that you have what's called a staging area. So if we pop back to the command line,
go ahead.
It says that there are these untracked files. And so what I actually have to do, unlike, say, TFVC or Subversion, I have to run git add. And I can add the folder, and that is recursive, and I can add the file. You don't mind me committing these?
Go ahead.
Great. And so I can commit these. And that is like subversion in TFBC, right? In both those systems, you have to add new files. What's different here is that if I edit one of these files, and make a change, when I run git status, it's still in red. It's telling me that my changes are not staged for commit. What I've actually got to do is run git add again. Git add doesn't add new files. It adds new content. So I have new content in this file. I need to run git add, and now when I run git status, it's in green. You can see that it's the text above it is changes to be staged, sorry, changes to be committed. So that's a little bit of a wrinkle in Git. It's something that often confuses first-time Git users, so it's something to be aware of.
All right, so there you go. This is, again, not a training course on Git, but I wanted you guys to see this because this can get a bit confusing. And when the tools mask it from you a bit, it's worse when you, for some reason, have to get to the command line. You're like, what? What is it doing? What is this not committed thing? What is this stage thing? So just be aware. There is this pipeline. You should learn how it works. And then the tools will probably hide a bunch of it from you like Visual Studio will. So that's fun. But let's do something even funner. In fact, let's do something kind of crazy. Let's go back to GitHub. And can I gripe for like 1 second here? I'm going to gripe for 1 second. GitHub is not Git, right? Well, lots of times people just interchange that in conversation, and I have to go, wait. Git is what GitHub uses to do source control. GitHub is a company. They have a website, and the website wraps a whole community angle around Git, right? I mean, that's the whole point of GitHub is to create a community for open source. They do issues, they do pull requests, they have a place for you to view the files online. That, lots of things Git doesn't do. Git doesn't have permissioning, right? Like Git is not permission aware. Some other system is to provide either a way to publish stuff openly in the web or like Visual Studio Team Services does to secure it. So just be aware of that. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to go to /git, and I'm going to go to the repository where Git lives. So this is the actual source code that makes Git. And I'm going to go to clone. And I don't know if you folks, if you're completely new to this, you might have never even paid attention or knew what this was about. But my mouse will not go further right, so I give up. Basically, right here on the right is now when I hit the clone button on the repo in GitHub, I get a URL. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that URL, and I'm going to go back to the command prompt. And now I'm going to create a new folder, GitHub 2, I'll call it. I think I have a 1, that's why I'm doing it. And now I'm going to make another folder called Git. The reason why I'm doing that is because I just want to follow the organizational structure of GitHub. Whenever I pull from GitHub, I try to do that. It makes it easier. So the next command that I run inside of Git will create a folder, which is the repository I'm pulling, and then it'll match the website's structure there. So that's all I have to do, git clone, and now magic will happen. And this is partially why I'm on this really badass network connection, because I wanted to do this. I wanted to pull down 126 megabytes in like a millisecond. And basically, Ed was trying to show this demo as a ploy to demonstrate other things. And I'm also using it as a reverse ploy of demonstrating how fast Azure can be for you. So there you go. I've paid the bills. Use Azure. Azure is amazing. Back to Git. So here you go. We've pulled this thing down. And let's go in and take a look what we pulled down from the perspective of File Explorer here. So wrong folder. Why would it be there? OK, that makes more sense. So I'm just going to go into the properties just to show you that I wasn't lying. We pulled down a fairly large file, collection of files. I pulled down 1.4 gigabytes. It would have taken just a little bit longer. I swear it was like fast. So again, go use Azure. But now all of this stuff is on disk. And Ed, what does it include? Like when you pull the repo down by default, when you clone it off GitHub, it's not just pulling the files only, right? It's pulling a lot more than that.
That's right. So you get not just the files in the latest version. Because Git is a distributed version control system, you get all of the history as well. And that means that it's right there on your machine. The actual history, the actual contents of the file, of the repository at every point in time. So you can run git log, which is the Sorry, I'm in the wrong place.
One more down.
I can run git log, and that shows me all of the changes that have happened throughout history. This is just like, TFVC history or SVN would show you. However, unlike TFVC and SVN, I can run a command to put me on an older commit without actually ever talking to the server again.
Just think how awesome that is, right? So imagine, this is a project you have no emotional connection to or reason to care about, but imagine it's your project, the one that, man, that change I pulled down, this isn't really going to work, and I'm on a plane, and I really want to try to fix this bug, but I need a different branch. There, you could just do that offline completely. It's amazing.
Exactly. So, oh, right, I'm on master. So I've actually checked out some changes. I've checked out an older commit, and I didn't have to hit the server to do that. So I can revert my changes. I can commit locally. I can do it on an airplane if I want. We always talk about committing on a plane. That's not really the gotcha of Git. That's not really the compelling part of Git, in my opinion. Although I do like working on a plane, and I like that I can commit on a plane. The real power of having all that history locally is speed and agility. I don't have to hit the server to create a branch. I don't have to hit the server to create multiple commits. And it really changes your workflow for the better, I think.
All right, so there goes that. And with that, we're going to end this part of the presentation for the command line tools, this demo. There's so much more to learn, right? We've scratched the surface. It's there for you. It's an awesome technology, and we're going to look at it from other perspectives now. But just be aware that we've only just started that journey with you here. So we're going to go back to the slides. And we mostly have demos, so the slides are coming to an end. Most of the slides coming up will be like demo. All right, so what are these other tools? Let's talk about that for a second. In fact, here, I'll do one more thing from the command line. I'm going to switch back, so I'm going to type git k. So there's one of the tools that they install with the command line tools. So with that, crazy visualization there of all the changes, just to give you a sense of how much stuff is happening. They have the people that changed it, they have the changes, they have lots of information. But going back to the deck, maybe you can describe the different tools one more time just to close this out.
Yeah, sure. Again, so Git CMD is really just the command prompt, the normal Windows command prompt that you're probably pretty familiar with all the Git stuff in the past. So you can just run git log, git status, git commit, all those git commands that we showed earlier. Git bash, again, is the sort of Unixy environment, the Unixy emulation that you may or may not like. Again, for me, it's there's a term for when animations start looking too human.
There is, but I can't think of it.
The uncanny valley. So if you, as you're creating an animation that looks like a person, Mickey Mouse, cute. But at some point, you start being unable to tell. The animation becomes uncanny. You start being unable to tell whether it's human or inhuman, and it creeps people out. That's the way I feel about Git bash. Your mileage may vary. Git GUI is a graphical user interface. It comes bundled. That's the best part about it.
Use Visual Studio.
There are some really great. Visual Studio has a good user interface. Git Kraken, Gmaster. I could go on and on. There are great.
He's saying use Visual Studio. That's what he means.
That's what okay. Yeah. And then, of course, Git K is another repository browser that, again, you just get when you install it, which is the best thing about it.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about Visual Studio Team Services. So we're moving on to the next topic here. I built this slide, so it's not going to be very pretty. We're gonna go through these. So my apologies for the graphics. I once was told by a graphics teacher when I was a little kid that I should basically not go to his class anymore. Same by a music teacher. I swear I was traumatized as a kid. That's okay. I program now. I'm okay. So let's talk about the history of Microsoft and Git. We certainly didn't start out with Git, and Git wasn't even there when we started in 1985. I had to dig for like Wikipedia and blogs and like ask people. This was not easy to put together, you would think. But Visual Source Safe 3.1 was the first thing that Microsoft ever shipped, and that was using, definitely not Git source control. And all the way for 2005, in 2006 is when we shipped that version. At the same time, we moved to this new product called TFS, which I'd love to see some hands. Does anybody here use TFS in their life?
One or two.
One or two. That's amazing. Visual Studio Team Services.
Great.
I love you guys. This is amazing. At other conferences, I don't get hands like this. I'm just letting you know. Even other sessions, this is amazing. So you probably noticed that in 2013 then that we added Git. TFEC is still there. TFEC is still supported. We still love it. It's not going anywhere. We're not going to kill it. We're just giving you another option. And if the community creates a third option, we're going to give you a third option. We're really committed to giving you the things you depend on and also things that the community is heading towards. That's part of the new Microsoft. We value not abandoning our customers, and I'm sure every one of you can probably give me an example of where you lied, Dimitri. You screwed me here or there. My apologies. It's a very large company. We do our best. We try not to do that. Asterisk, lots of things. Building software is hard. We apologize. It's the truth. I've done software development for like 18 years now. People say I look young, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. But I've built VB6 components, like ActiveX and stuff. Oh boy, scary stuff. So TFS went to the cloud at some point, right? So this was TFS. This was SourceSafe, TFS. TFS had source control, agile tools, build, all that stuff. And eventually, we decided to make it a software as a service. We decided that TFS was going to go into the cloud, and we called it Visual Studio Online. That is the first year that Git appeared. That's why it's relevant. But I love to talk about this topic because I told them so. I hated the name Visual Studio Online, and they changed it. But that's going to cause confusion, and it has. So I'm going to try to clarify in this one slide a lot of that confusion for you folks. So as of TFS 2013 on premises, Git is there for you. Any version future, Git is there for you. If you use our SaaS, Git is there for you. But it's now called Visual Studio Team Services or VSTS. I would tell you all the other things people call VSTS, but I won't because you'll remember one of them, and then you'll say it's that, and Dimitri told you. Oh my gosh, every time I talk to people on my own team, they screw up the name. So sorry. But Visual Studio Team Services is TFS. TFS is Visual Studio Team Services. Even people that go to these presentations, for some reason, I can't explain it, and I want to help try to fix it, still don't make that association. So I'm just making it very clear. We used to go like this. We used to keep building new versions of TFS. We now actually do this. We build stuff in the cloud, and we ship it through updates back to TFS. Because we are committed to TFS. We believe TFS needs to continue living. If I had my way right now, Magic Wand, they would be called the same thing. Because that would make it easier. You'd know it's the same thing. It isn't. That's above my pay grade, but here you go. We are committed to both products. One's in the cloud. The one in the cloud is free for up to 5 users and has unlimited Git repos so that users, unlike GitHub, I love GitHub, but they charge for private Git repos. So if you want to screw around with Git, that's where you want to go. You want to go to the VSTS because it's free and it's not going to limit you in any sort of way. This is, again, the promise. Like one of the last slides is a marketing person that I'm going to put up here. My apologies, but I have to point this out. It's a developer service. It's in the cloud. It doesn't install in the box, but it's the same thing as the thing above it. It's TFS, right? So just know that everything on the other side, those are all either IDEs or editors, and they run on different operating systems, and you write code with them. And I run into a lot of developers, especially outside of our ecosystem, where I tell them VSTS, and they're like, so how do you edit code with that? And I'm like, no, it's a DevOps thing. It's in the cloud. All right, I'm done. Let's talk about VSTS demo. So I'm going to jump in, and I'm going to switch back to my machine here. 1 second. All right. So I'm going to open up one of my projects here. So let's start this in the beginning and click on the link. So here is Visual Studio Team Services as a web interface. And it's a really powerful web interface. I, for a long time as a TFS user back in my career, before I even worked at Microsoft, never really appreciated it because it wasn't that useful. Visual Studio kind of did everything I needed. Nowadays, I spend a lot of time in here. I think it's quite powerful, does a lot of things. Let's take a look at what it can do for you if you were creating a new team project. So if you're in an account, so this is an account, right? VSTS-anydev, it's the name I picked. It has no significance. It's just I could have called it Dimitri. But now a team project within it, this is where there's magic. And the magic comes from the fact that you can create as many of these team projects as you want. I'm sure there's some limit. I don't know what it is, but a lot. So you can create it, and you can choose your source control type when you create that. But unlike at a certain point in time when this was a really final choice in a way, like you said, my team project is going to have one or the other, it's no longer the case. So demo 1, I'm going to create it, hitting the create button, and it's going to go create. This used to take a long time too. Anybody remember that? I do. I had to stare at it, especially in demos. And now it's gonna mess with me and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to take a long time. There really is a demo god. I don't know about any other god whatsoever. This one exists because there you go, I was punished for some reason. All right, so now that I have a new team, obviously can add people to it, all that stuff. We're not here to teach you all the other parts of VSTS. I am here to demonstrate one specific thing. Sorry, wrong place. I'm going to click on code. And now I'm going to get a little drop down right here where it says demo 1. So demo 1 is my team. Demo 1 is my Git repo, right? That's the little Git icon over here. If I click down, there's a manage repositories. I can say new repository. And my team can have many repositories, and they can still be intermixed after your creation. So from this point forward, you can import your existing TFVC one in here. You can create a TFVC one and use it. You can create 5 Gits or 10 Gits or some mix of combination of them. It just freaking works. It's really awesome. So that's one thing I wanted to show you. Now let's go to a project which already has code, because there's a lot of goodness here that people just don't realize that exists. I'm going to open up the Razor Pages demo. This is a hodgepodge. It's almost like a real project. You know, I started it by saying this team is going to be all about Razor Pages, and then I said, okay, so fine. This team is also going to be about Python and the Django. And by the way, I'm going to put in an AdventureWorks database that's going to have some SQL in it. So now my team name no longer makes any sense whatsoever for my repos, but that's almost like real life. So there you go. The beautiful thing now that all of these are Git repos, right? The red icon indicates that. If I go to the original one and I click in here and then I go to commits, there's going to be just the 3 commits here that I've done. And now if I switch over to the Django, let me show you guys some coolness in the file system. So one thing that's really powerful is the visualizer that we have in the web for all these files. And if you, let's say, want to look at some Python, you will see that we, there's a ton of different files that we support, basically. Once you get them or TFVC them, you can go on the web UI. You can take a look at them. They're color-coded. The spacing's right. If there's history, you can compare the history of different files in the web. You can rename it. You can edit it. You can upload new files up to 20 megabyte limit, as I learned. Not sure why that exists. We'll have to take a look at that. But basically, the web UI gives you lots of capability. And that capability extends into Git. So this will make commits for you. And if you need to make a change, so if I need to make a change to this file, I'm going to go ahead and go into the comments, bravely saying comment, and I'm going to hit commit. It's actually making a commit into the branch of my choice, right? And I can even associate it with a work item. So the web UI is something that's way underappreciated often. I wanted to point out that it doesn't matter the kind of code you have up here. For the majority of you, you'll be able to go in here and view it very nicely, be able to edit it very nicely, and still follow the protocol, right? So we don't break the rules of Git just because you're in a web UI. It doesn't matter what interface you're using. It really doesn't. And you can also intermix things. Again, one of the many misconceptions about VSTS is it's just for .NET. It's not. VSTS is for lots of other things, especially from a source control perspective. It's for anything. It's whatever files you want to kick up there. From a build system, we support quite a few things in our own builds. We even do Linux builds nowadays with .NET Core. We can do Python, Java builds, Node builds. We can extend to other build systems, lots of really cool stuff there. But I'm just throwing it out there as extra banter. Now, let's go to a Git repo that actually was imported with a lot more history, because I want to show you some of that capability. And for that, Ed volunteered to walk you through it because he knows quite a bit. I'm just going to switch him to the right place. And maybe you can walk him through the tap nav there.
Absolutely. Sorry, I just got to adjust a little bit. So again, right now we're in what we call the code hub. This is the default view, and it's just a view of the files and folders that make up your project. This is very similar to what you see in TFVC, very familiar. Up here on the top tab, I can click commits. And what this shows me is actually my history. These are the changes that have been made. It's very similar to the history tab in TFVC. I can scroll through, and I'm seeing change by change what happened in my project. One difference in Git is this view on the far left. That's the graph. I don't want to dig too deeply into that. This is a little bit more advanced about Git, but this is the way Git stores history, and it stores it graphically. And Visual Studio Team Services will actually show you the graph as part of the web visualization.
Git-K, that tool in the command line that we ran, the visual one, that also did the same visualization.
Exactly so. It's definitely something you start to want to be able to view as a Git user. We also have another view on history. We call it the pushes tab. So since Git is a distributed version control system, you can commit your changes to your local repository and then push them to the server later. So you could make several commits, in fact, all on your local machine, and then push them all up at once. So the pivot to the pushes tab will show you when all these changes actually came to the server. Not when they were made in a local repository, but when they actually landed on the server. And you can see that this is actually, it appears that this was a rather large import.
It's like a gift basket that can break the build. It's like that, basically.
That's exactly right. We can also pivot onto the branches tab, and we can view all of the branches that exist in a particular repository. We simplify it so that we just show you the branches that you created, as well as all branches. And again,
you can star them as well. So if you want to on mine list, if you put a star, it puts it up there. So that's kind of useful if you want to track one or you want easy access to it from there.
Exactly. You can favorite your branches. Tags are similar to branches at the repository level, but they actually mean different things. So I create a branch when I want to work on a feature, fix a bug. A tag represents a release. And so you can see here, we've tagged 1.0, 1.0.0-beta 3, and these are meant to be immutable pointers to a particular point in time at the release.
Yeah, it tags the code at that time, and you can pull the code on based on that tag. It's really useful. At first, it kind of confused me because I'm like, well, isn't that the whole point of branching and merging for that? But there's just lots of, the more I think about it, the more use cases I can think of. And I think, again, once you get a little bit deeper into this, you'll see how all of this makes actually a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I don't know how I live without some of it, to be honest.
Agreed. Finally, pull requests. Pull requests are a new piece of functionality for working with Git repositories. And the idea is that you create your commits locally. Instead of pushing them up straight into the integration branch, right into, it's called master in Git, but it's like trunk or main in other version control systems. Instead of checking straight into master, pull requests allow you to have a workflow that allows for code review and continuous integration. The CI builds actually happen on your pull request before integrating into master. So you'll see if you've got a build break, you'll see if tests are failing before it actually lands in master and breaks everybody's build. So I think we're going to talk to pull requests. You'll see more about pull requests in a moment,
Yeah.
but this is the hub for them.
Yeah, there's no pull request in this particular repo. Now, the cool thing is that the stuff that you have seen in here, again, that came from GitHub. I pulled down this repo. I didn't create all this history magically or through some tests. This all travels with the repo, so that's kind of cool.
And indeed, you can see that that's exactly what happened because there's only one push in the pushes tab.
Yep, I pushed the whole repo up with all their commits and branches. So a couple of misconceptions that you folks should be aware of. I think it's useful just to kind of understand where things are coming from, because then you can apply them better. One of them is pull requests. People often think pull requests are a Git thing. They're implemented by, and Ed can correct me if I'm wrong, by two organizations, as an example, Microsoft and GitHub, in their individual products. It's not part of Git. There's no pull request at the command line.
That's right.
So they're manifestation on top of Git. Same like security. Git doesn't know security. It's a manifestation of TFS or VSTS to give you security, and we can secure your branches. We can do all of that with Git. By switching to Git, you're not switching to a less secure system. You're switching to a quite secure system, the one that Microsoft trusts to build Windows on, just to give you that perspective. And then forking is another example. We've added forking to our product. It's not fully implemented yet. It's like half implemented. It's stable, but we're going to add more features, basically. But forking is something that people know from GitHub quite a bit. They know that you go to GitHub, you like a project, you want to get a copy publicly in your own space that you can work on and eventually try to merge those changes back in if you want to do a contribution. Again, misconception, often people think that's Git. No, that's GitHub. GitHub created that. We're following suit because organizations, right? We like this feature internally, the kind of inner source story that is starting to be built around the different companies in this space. The notion that companies want to have open source inside of their organizations, that's open just inside of their organizations, not actual community open source, right? But you need stuff like forking, you need stuff like pull requests to make it all very successful. That's why it exists here. All right, so that's that. And how long do you think you need for your demo? Because I think you have a good one. 20 minutes?
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to go a little bit more, but because you guys are a Visual Studio audience, I'm willing to I'm willing to cut some stuff in order to give Ed enough time, and we'll have some time for questions, hopefully, and we'll certainly be here afterwards. So let's do one more set of demos here. I'm going to switch back for slides just to make sure I don't miss anything. All right, slides. All right, so these are just, blah, blah, blah features. The one thing I will say from this slide is that we work with lots of IDEs, like VSTS and TFS, if you have a modern version of it. By modern, I mean the last 5 years. You can use Eclipse and Android Studio and Xcode, especially when we talk about Git, which is a standard. You can work from command line against it. So again, just don't forget that lots of this stuff within your companies or your private hobbies, they work with our DevOps product. And our DevOps product is Visual Studio Team Services, and it's also called TFS on premises. All right, so Windows developers. Let me see, how do I want to go through this? So let's start with this demo. Probably the best way to go through this is the way that I originally planned. Switching the plan tends to not work nearly as well. All right, I want to talk about what Visual Studio does for you. Now, I have a feeling that you folks probably are going to be much more comfortable when I get to this point and be like, yeah, I've seen this. Again, I've spent many years and never even went to the web UI, and this could be even true today for some people. But let's talk about, for these couple of minutes, what Visual Studio does with Git and how it abstracts some of these challenges that you have to learn if you go command line. And one other fun fact, because I can, developer news in Visual Studio, I own that. If you see a story you don't like, you can tweet at me and tell me why the heck are you putting this inside Visual Studio. So there's the one fun fact of the day. I might give one more if we have time later. But let's talk about Git some more. So I'll close the start page, and let's take a look at Team Explorer. Team Explorer, if you never heard of Visual Studio, never used it, or haven't used it in a while, that's where you interact with source control. And this is fully supporting Git. And if you get the GitHub extension, it supports GitHub, and there's a Bitbucket, and there's other extensions for Visual Studio. So Visual Studio is still a very open, product that can connect to all sorts of source control systems. In this case, we're connected to the team projects. If you can look over here, I'll try to zoom in. If this fails badly, I wonder why. Let me try again. Well, I tried. So over here in the top right, in little font, it says VSTS Dev Anywhere. And then I have the various projects. So let's go and open up one of the projects that I have inside of my source control. So I have a couple of projects here. Let's do that music store one. Actually, no, I'm going to do the Razor Pages. There you go, Razor Pages. So by opening this project up, it's going to do exactly what you expect Visual Studio to do if you've used Visual Studio before. And that is to give you an experience where you can work with the files, make changes, and then sync those changes up to the server. The one difference with this particular project that maybe you're not doing in your organization is I have a continuous build, continuous delivery set up on this particular thing. Let's run it real quick, make sure I open the right one. That will help me feel smarter if this works later. It should take about a second here. I keep telling them to add hold music to Visual Studio as a feature, and nobody in the product team agrees with me. I don't know why. Every time it'd be amazing. Customizable, of course. We're all about extensibility. I don't want you to hear my music. I want you to hear your music. Come on now. Don't fail me now, Visual Studio. All right, so here's the project. This is the right one. I know because I added this tag here earlier. So the power of Git and the power of VSTS extends all the way through the cloud, right, and through other clouds as well. But we'll focus on Azure because we're the Microsoft event here. So particularly speaking, I've got this running on a website, and I will go and open up that website real quick just to do a sanity check for myself. Let's see, did I bookmark it, or did I think I should have bookmarked it, which would have been an awesome idea. I think I only thought about it, which is fine. That's what the Azure portal is for. So we're going to go into Azure portal real quick, just so I can show you the chain of events that's going to happen, and then we shall switch to the next demo. All right, so we've got me clicking on the wrong button. Oh, geez, 1 second here. This is the database. Let's go to App Service. So App Service is a way to host websites in the cloud. You can host Python, you can host .NET, you can host lots of stuff in there. In this case, I've got this Git demo hosted. And if I go into the overview, I'll have a link. There you go. My apologies for not saving that. So now this is up in the cloud, and we have a full CI/CD pipeline out to it. The beautiful thing, again, is that you can really set some cool controls because of what we do to your check-ins. So just because you're doing a check-in into a repository that doesn't know anything about CI/CD or build or anything else, we build all that stuff on top of it, and we create policies and stuff. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, what are some of the capabilities that we have? If you want, I can take you back into here so you can show it. Because this is what extends Git into a much more mature enterprise model from where I sit. So if you go into like this particular project, if you can show the kind of restrictions you can put in Dimitri from checking things in.
I would never restrict Dimitri from checking things in.
Never. They're going to restrict you, so
your
don't worry,
code's
you're a
great.
PM now.
So again, if we go back to the branches tab, this will show me all of my branches. And master, again, is my integration branch. It's like trunk or main in other version control systems. And I can click and come down to branch security. That is obviously critical for an enterprise. This restricts the people who can read and write to a branch. More importantly, in my opinion, are branch policies. So I can turn on protect this branch. And what this restricts Dimitri from doing and all of my coworkers, but mostly Dimitri.
But mostly Dimitri, yeah.
What this restricts Dimitri from doing is actually pushing code directly into master, without code reviews, without continuous integration. Best practices, I want all of my changes to be code reviewed and all of my changes to build and be tested before they land in my main integration branch.
Raise your hand if you ever broke production. Oh, okay. Thank God I'm not the only one. I thought I was in trouble. Only once, though. I learned my lesson, I think.
So I can turn on a minimum number of reviewers. This means that people must actually approve. Code reviewers must approve the pull
Dimitri
request.
approves his own pull request. Dimitri likes his pull request.
You can turn that on. You can, in fact, set that option. This allows you to have the traceability of the pull requests, but still unblock you from getting directly into production if you need it. But more importantly, you can add build validation. And this is the CI pipeline on pull requests. So I can set up, if I have builds enabled, which I do, I can require that these builds succeed and the tests pass before code can get integrated into the master branch. So that's really crucial best practices.
It's not big deal. The build breaks, just push it to production. I don't see the problem. The admins will figure it out. They'll roll it back.
Yeah, we need that. We need a continuous delivery option that is like the Visual Studio.
We had a name. We came up with a name for it, right? The continuous destruction or something.
Yeah.
We came up with something cool, and of course we didn't write it down. But all of this stuff really takes just something that's just source control and takes it up to the next level. So that's really cool. And I do have the full CI/CD thing set up here. The odds are you've probably seen this demo, like Donovan Brown and many other advocates and evangelists have done these demos. So I'm not going to bore you with it. Just know that that website that I painfully discovered the URL for no purpose, I guess, whatsoever, it will get any changes if they pass through the pipeline. And it could be secure, it could be really automated, and again, it's very customizable, configurable, extendable. People keep finding out that we support something like a different build system or that we support a different source control system. Historically, people see TFS as this one thing you use and you do nothing else. You just use TFS. Now that we're in this VSTS-driven world, this cloud-centric world, we extend to say, use a different build system, just use our source control, or just use our Agile and source and use a different build system, or use Jira and then use our build system and our source. It's up to you, and we integrate. We have webhooks and all these capabilities. Go take a look. It's pretty awesome. There's no reason why you can't use one vertical of our product here and not the others. All right, so I think with that, I want to hand it over to you because you have some cool stuff to show. 17 minutes?
Sure.
All right, so we're going to slightly adjust, but you got a number here. Yes, 7.
So Dimitri talked about a standard ASP.NET app with Visual Studio deploying to Azure. I want to do something a little bit different because it's important to point out that Visual Studio Team Services, despite the Visual Studio family name, is not limited to the technologies that Visual Studio supports.
Ed, your Windows looks weird. I think
my Windows isn't
installed
Windows.
some add-on.
My Windows is macOS 10.
There you go.
And my Visual Studio isn't Visual Studio. My Visual Studio is Eclipse.
How many people have Eclipse in their organizations?
Yeah, more than a few.
Yeah, more than a few. We run into this all the time, and your Eclipse teams, if you're not one of them, if you are, I'm not trying to insult you or anybody else. I'm just saying, like, I've seen this so many times. People that are in the Java team, they don't think TFS will work with them. They don't think VSTS will work with them. It will, it can, it will, we do. There you go, we're gonna show you some stuff.
Exactly so. I mean, Visual Studio Team Services is really agnostic as to the type of code that you're storing in it from a version controls perspective. It's just code. So I'm going to create a new Java EE web project. I'm going to call it Hello Ignite.
And what isn't Java 2EE project for those that might not be Java developers?
I'm sorry. J2EE is kind of the ASP.NET of the Java world. So I'm building a web application, a very simple one, but a web application nonetheless, with the Eclipse IDE. I'm going to add a new JSP file. JSP is what's the equivalent? I'm not an ASP.NET guy. I'm actually a Unix guy.
I think most of us can know that that's where the logic is going to live, and the UX is going to live. I don't know if it's the viewer, the controller, or both, but there you have it. Your HTML. It's like a Razor page.
Exactly.
There you go. Classic. It's like classic ASP. Yeah, it's totally not as cool as a Razor page. This is like when I started back in the dark ages.
Fair enough. So
we love you Java people. We do.
So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up as a Maven project, because Maven is the build system that I like. Maven is, you can consider it kind of like a combination of NuGet and MS build. It handles dependencies and it handles the build. And then I'm going to go in on the command line, because I'm a command line guy, and create a Git repository here.
And that looks very familiar, because we did exactly that on Windows. Again, that's the cool thing about Git. The stuff is the same across the OSs.
That's right. We didn't build some crazy Windows-specific Git. It works with Git on Mac OS X. It even works with the Git that's built into Eclipse. So I can come and go to Team, Share Project. This is the Team menu is really how Eclipse joins up with version control systems. And it's a text that there's actually already a Git repository there. So I'm just going to go ahead and click Finish. And now all of the Git-specific functionality is available to me within Eclipse.
So I'll stop you right there and say one thing. If you need to go, please go. A lot of people are leaving. Doesn't bug us at all. We know there's lots of much better things out there. There aren't here with a Mac in front of you. But please rate the session. We appreciate your time, and we really want to know how you feel. And if you never want to see us talk about Macs again, just rate it poorly, and we won't. So there you have it. It's like a weapon. For good or for evil is up to you, but sorry, sir, please continue. Is there an extension that makes this team thing possible in Eclipse that we?
No, it's built right in.
It's built right in? Oh,
yeah,
cool.
Absolutely. I just downloaded Eclipse, and I'm ready to go. So I'm actually going to commit on the command line, though, because I'm a Unix guy. I'm embarrassed to say.
Unix people were cool when I was growing up. When I wanted to be a developer, and the kids in school were beating me up because I was a geek. They really were. This isn't like a joke. I saw the old guy that was in the basement with all the computers that ran Unix as the most awesome person in the world. So you're like one of my heroes, almost. Except you don't have as much hair, but that could be an age thing.
Harsh. So I'm going to create a new repository for this Java project in Visual Studio Team Services. And when I do, it gives me the instructions on what I need to do to push my changes into VSTS.
Yeah, we're doing that in a lot of places, so don't ignore those pages with lots of words on them. Certainly I have in the past, but like there's actually useful things there now. You can actually get real commands that just work, and it saves you time, especially if you're new to Git.
Yeah. And voila. So now I have my Java project in Visual Studio Team Services. I can take pull requests with my changes. I can build out a CI/CD workflow from here. In fact, Visual Studio Team Services prompts me to. It's got a big button saying to set up a build. And it's easy to, out of the box, set up a J2EE project. In fact, I can even go all the way as to deploying it into Azure with the Azure Web App for Java button. All I have to do is select an agent, give it a name, come down here and select the web app I want to deploy to.
And this UI is identical for what I did for the .NET project. All these steps are just steps you got to associate a bunch of stuff, and the magic begins to happen. It's quite
exactly
cool.
So.
You're like, which, am I going to overwrite something? You're probably thinking, probably not.
Yeah, I know. Let me actually make sure I select the right one. So I'm going to deploy to my Azure web app.
This seems like a lot of drop downs to go through, but you do it a couple of times, it really becomes really easy. It's pretty helpful. It gives you the values and a lot of them. You just have to know which ones are required.
Oh, exactly so. I'm building out a full CI/CD pipeline for a J2E app in a minute. That's actually pretty incredible.
Yeah. It's incredible, but you know what I've heard from people, and I've even felt this myself, it's like, if you don't actually need it, like somebody says, you got to do that or you don't have a job, and you're like, oh, it always sounds better, but that's a lot of drop downs. But I've gone through it, and I've gone through that pain, and now it's just so amazing. I have a bunch of side projects I work on. I don't even think about it. I've had stuff not go down or not have to worry about how do I deploy because I haven't touched this thing in a year. This stuff just works.
So while that's building, so it found an agent, a hosted agent in Visual Studio Team Services. It's going to run the build and then deploy into Azure. While it's doing that, let me actually make a little bit of a pivot and show some slightly different. Instead of being on a Mac, why don't I actually switch to Linux this time? So I can open up my Visual Studio subscription, and I've got a native code project that's cross-platform, that's open source, and it's hosted in GitHub. But I want to use the CI/CD pipeline that's available to me in Visual Studio Team Services. The great thing about using Git as a standard across different products like GitHub, like Visual Studio Team Services, is the interoperability. So it's very easy for me to create a new Git repository from my open source project. I can just click the Import Repository button and enter my URL.
Yeah, and that's the URL and the clone button on GitHub. So you can basically, what he's showing you is that you can go to any GitHub project whatsoever, and if you want to try writing some patch in the private for it before you're sort of brave enough to go and commit it in the public, this is one way to do that, and it's free, and it's just available to you. Also, it's a great way to store some code that you want to have in the back of your pocket, so to speak. I've done this for just projects I rely on. If tomorrow that GitHub repo goes away, what am I going to do? Hopefully somebody else made a backup. I started making my own backups of stuff that I rely on. There's no guarantee. It's a community project. It can go away. There's no SLA there.
Right. Exactly.
I'm paranoid. You can tell that, right?
And just like before, we're going to copy the clone URL out, and I'm going to clone that down to my...
This is now real Linux. It's no longer an imitation of said Linux.
Right. So now this is cloned down to my Mac. It is a C++ project, native code. I can run make. I've got a few warnings because, I've actually got an error. Oh no!
No.
Terrible.
Demo fail and burn with 7 minutes remaining. Can he do it?
Demo fail indeed. I can fix this, sure. But what I'm actually going to do is set up a CI/CD pipeline, and we'll see it fail on Unix. This will build on Windows, not on Unix, because I forgot to push a change. That's my bad. So we're going to set up the build, and I can create a new empty process. We'll host this in VS 2017. And we'll add a MS build task. And I'll go ahead and kick off the Windows side of the build while I also create a release definition, a build definition rather, for the Linux side. Again, I'll start with an empty process. And this time, instead of choosing the VS 2017 hosted build agent, I'm going to use the hosted Linux build agent. Again, we'll get the sources. And all I need to do is run a command on the command line that is make. That is the extent of my build process for this cross-platform native app. So we've imported a repository from GitHub, and we've got 2 build pipelines, one for Windows, one for Linux. And if I go back to my builds, I suspect by now the Windows build has finished. Indeed, it succeeded. I accidentally checked in some Windows-only code. That's why it didn't build on my Mac. It is building on Windows, so we get the full build output. And it failed on Linux. So we're able to build out CI/CD pipelines that will allow you to, if you have a cross-platform application, get full validation across all the platforms so that you don't do something like I did and check in code that builds on one platform but not the others.
All right. Anything else you want to show from the other side? You're good? All right, folks. Well, thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate your time. For everybody that's here, thank you so much. For everybody that isn't here, that was here, we still thank you so much. Thank you, Ed, for showing up. You made this so much better. Thank you, guys. If you have any questions, we're here. See you at next Ignite. Or